I'm Angela Evans with Cincinnati Ohio Living, and there are some really important changes happening in the real estate industry right now. So if you're a home buyer, seller, agent, or appraiser, you're going to want to stick around as we break down the specifics of these new practices and get the answers to some of the most important questions people are asking right now. So let's get started. So I'm not going to assume that you know anything about how the real estate industry functions, so I'm going to start with some basics. Most of the information I'm sharing today can be easily found on the NAR website. So first of all, what is the NAR? According to their website, the National Association of Realtors, or NAR, is America's largest trade association, with over 1.5 million members involved in all aspects of the residential and commercial real estate industries. The members of the NAR are residential and commercial brokers, salespeople, property managers, appraisers, counselors, and others engaged in the real estate industry. Next, what is an MLS? MLS stands for Multiple Listing Service. They are private databases that are created, maintained, and paid for by real estate professionals to help their clients buy and sell property. It allows brokers to see one another's listings with the goal of connecting home buyers with home sellers. Previously, commission or compensation was also part of the data communicated on there. Now that we've covered a couple basics, let's talk about why home buyers, home sellers, and real estate agents across the country are going to start seeing some changes. So first, I'm not going to claim to know everything that's going on here, as it can get very complex and confusing, and this is your friendly reminder that this is not legal advice. You should always contact an attorney for legal advice. So from my understanding, there were allegations brought against the NAR, National Association of Realtors, and some brokerages, claiming that in certain areas, there was a violation of antitrust laws by setting and controlling real estate commissions, specifically inflating buyer's agent commissions. So the settlement intends to improve transparency in the real estate industry, and it is scheduled for final approval in November of 2024. The proposed settlement is focused on residential real estate transactions, which means that most commercial transactions are not going to be affected. This is because in many markets, commercial transactions do not appear in an MLS, and therefore neither does their compensation. Here's a little fun fact for you. Did you know that all realtors are licensed real estate agents, but not all real estate agents are realtors? So real estate agents are licensed professionals who facilitate property transactions between buyers and sellers. On the other hand, realtors are licensed professionals who facilitate property transactions between buyers and sellers and are members of the National Association of Realtors, adhering to a strict code of ethics and high standards of conduct. Beyond the duties of a regular real estate agent, a realtor pledges to uphold honesty, integrity, and client interests through the NAR Code of Ethics and completes ethics training every 3 years. The term realtor signifies a dedication to professionalism and ethical practices in the real estate industry. I'm going to touch on the most noticeable changes that we're going to see, and then I will break each one down a little bit. First, there will no longer be a field for cooperative compensation in any MLS, and it's actually prohibited to put the offer of compensation anywhere in the MLS or any downstream products. If you are not a professional in the real estate industry, this really doesn't mean much to you, because this information was never readily available for you to see before anyway. Second, it will now be required to disclose compensation to sellers and prospective sellers and buyers. Third, it will now be required to enter into a written agreement with a buyer prior to touring a home. To the buyers out there, here's what you can expect. In Cincinnati, all buyers will be required to sign a written agreement with your agent before touring a home, so that you understand exactly what services will be provided and for how much, and how those services will be paid. These written agreements are required for in-person and virtual live tours. There are a few variations of these forms, so you will want to talk to your realtor and determine which one makes the most sense for you to use. From what I can see, the compensation is going to be broken down the same. Agent compensation continues to be fully negotiable, as it has always been. And one note is that you do not need a written agreement if you are just talking to a realtor about their services, or you're at an open house. You only need the written agreement prior to touring a home. The written agreement must include 4 parts. First, A specific and conspicuous disclosure of the amount or rate of compensation the participant or agent will receive, or how this amount will be determined, to the extent that the participant will receive compensation from any source. 2. The amount of compensation in a manner that is objectively ascertainable and not open-ended. So this is going to be the negotiated percentage or dollar amount or flat fee between the buyer and the agent. 3. A term that prohibits the participant from receiving compensation for brokerage services from any source that exceeds the amount or rate agreed to in the agreement with the buyer. And 4, a conspicuous statement that broker fees and commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable. So to the sellers out there, here's what you can expect. The practice changes require that a realtor conspicuously disclose to sellers and obtain seller approval for any payment or offer of payment that a listing broker will make to another broker, agent, or other representative acting for a buyer. So basically, when you want to sell your home, you sign a listing agreement. This agreement will now have updated wording to break down the compensation. It previously included compensation, but it is now just more detailed and specific, with a reminder that compensation is not set by law and remains fully negotiable. This is one of those things that I think is going to affect sellers differently across the board, and it's going to be an adjustment period until we kind of figure out what the new norm is, if there is one. Some sellers are probably going to continue to offer a buyer's agent commission in hopes that it will bring more traffic and potential buyers that maybe couldn't afford to pay their agents out of their own pocket. But some sellers are probably not going to offer a buyer's agent commission at all anymore. And then you're going to have some that are going to be flexible and take different offers on their home and determine if they want to pay the buyer's agent commission or maybe offer other seller concessions, such as paying some of their closing costs or paying for their title insurance or home warranty, things like that. Personally, I can see it going both ways. I think this is just something that no one can really predict how it's going to go. And we are all just going to be doing our best and going to see how it goes. Here in Cincinnati, we have already seen the compensation fields go away in our MLS. And offers of compensation in the MLS are strictly prohibited going forward. In Cincinnati, and I'm sure all across the country, there are some significant fines in place, so don't try to get around it. If you do not comply, so let's say you try to get around it and put the commission or compensation in the agent remarks or somewhere within the listing, it is $1,000 for the first offense, $5,000 for the second offense, and $10,000 plus a 1-year suspension for the third offense. Not worth it. We are still allowed as agents to communicate compensation to other agents and brokers and cannot steer buyers away from homes for sale based on the compensation being offered, which has always been the rule, by the way. It's just going to require an additional conversation with agents and buyers and sellers surrounding compensation now, which should promote transparency. Like I've said, this is going to be a transition period for all of us. Some sellers are still going to want to offer a buyer's agent commission. Some will not, and some will leave it up to the buyer to negotiate that when their offer is submitted or ask for other seller concessions. One last group that's going to be affected are the appraisers. Oftentimes, appraisers use MLS data for their reports. So here's how the practice changes could impact that process. Appraisers need to know the details of the transactions they are analyzing, including the sales they consider as possible comparables. The compensation paid on the subject property will remain readily available to the appraiser through analysis of the sales contract. The NAR expects its members to communicate with appraisers when needed, which includes answering and engaging in their inquiries on what compensation was paid or will be paid at closing for a given transaction. So overall, it sounds like appraisers won't see much of a change, aside from having to analyze the sales contract or reaching out to an agent to verify the terms of the sale. Again, please keep in mind that this is not legal advice. If you have any legal questions concerning this, you should always contact an attorney. I am simply trying to help spread the information that I have found and tell you what changes I think you might start noticing. If you want to know more about the Cincinnati area and surrounding suburbs, I'm going to be posting new videos every single week, so make sure you hit subscribe and tap the bell for notifications. That way you never miss one. You can also reach out using my contact information in the description box below. Thanks for watching today.